So I've heard something like 90% of this podcast with a woman named Karen Hurd on the Quacks podcast, episode number 71. I'll put a link down below. She has something called the Bean Protocol, which I'm just now starting. And it's pretty simple. She tells a story about a woman who suffered nerve toxemia from pesticides. So she had a house that was full of insects. There were some guys who came in and bombed the place with chemicals, and then she had this woman who was suffering had all of the symptoms of a particular kind of nerve toxemia, nervous system poisoning, that is, that this woman Karen Hurd knew about because she was trained in nuclear chemical warfare in the army. And despite Karen asking for doctors at, I believe it was a hospital, to do a certain blood test, they refused, and they told her that she didn't know what she was talking about. And then she kind of listened to them for a little while, but then whenever they moved back into the house, the pesticides were still there, and all of the symptoms for this poor suffering woman came right back. And what Karen figured out was that the gallbladder hosts all of our concentrated bile acid. And every time that we eat, it will secrete and dump a large amount of bile acid. And that is the fat-soluble compounds of our body that need to be excreted through our gastrointestinal tract. So we have the fat-soluble that leaves through the stool, and then we have the water-soluble, which gets pushed through the kidneys and then either comes out the skin or the urine. Well, in order for the bile acid to be caught and evacuated, there has to be soluble fiber present. And basically, if you have like a whole onion, I want to say you have like 2 or 3 grams of soluble fiber that is there. But if you have just, say, a small handful of beans, then you have a similar amount of soluble fiber. So basically, beans are the densest source of soluble fiber. So what Karen did for this person was she force-fed her beans. Apparently this woman was in such a severe state that she had to be tube-fed 6 or 7 times a day. 6 to 8 times a day, I believe is what she mentioned, in small amounts of beans, so that the bile acid would consistently bind, and that poison wasn't recirculated. So that's the thing, is that if you have soluble fiber there when you eat, bile acid comes out. If soluble fiber is there, particularly with the meal, then it will be bound up and then it comes out as the stool. If you do not have soluble fiber, then it will do something called enterohepatic recirculation, which is inner hepatic liver recirculation. So it's like inner liver recirculation. And basically, it's a form of acid in your body that just gets recirculated until it can be evacuated. And she was explaining that basically, and this could be an umbrella. This is an umbrella statement, and it could be an overgeneralization. But essentially, that if we eat pesticides, poisons, or we're exposed to pesticides, and our body has to store those and concentrate those in our bile acid, then the pH goes down, which means that we become more acidic, and all of the systematic compartments of the. I'm trying to get my finger there. It's we're all the systematic compartments, say like the duodenum, the ileum, the jejunum, there are these basically gateways that separate each compartment. And each one of those gateways has a certain pH to it. And whenever our bile acid is super acidic, then those gateways are also super acidic. And the only way to start to push them, the pH number up, which is to make it more alkaline, is to evacuate the bile acid by eating soluble fiber. So I'm going to try it out. We'll see how it goes.